Hello everyone, Professor Dustin here, and this video is going to be like a crash course in writing equations in documents. So, as scientists, particularly as physicists, mathematicians, chemists, biologists, like you want to be able to write equations in documents you produce to describe what you're doing to other people. Uh, sometimes it's fine to just write like y equals mx plus b in the text, and that's fine, but often you are creating your own equations, or you need to describe an equation not just like in words but actually just present the equation. And so there needs to be a solution for you to do that. And if you're taking the advanced lab with me this semester, it's a really critical skill to be able to include the equations that you're actually using to do the calculations, right? So I'm going to teach you how to do it in Google Docs and in LibreOffice. I'm not going to talk about Microsoft Word. I think it's very similar to LibreOffice, but I generally try to stay away from things that cost an arm and a leg to use them at all and are generally worse solutions to things. And you'll find that basically Google Docs does all the stuff you kind of need it to do. So before doing that, which is what I'm going to do to Google Docs and LibreOffice, I just want to mention that if you really want to do this well, if you really want to be able to write custom equations, and so this is a paper that I wrote a little while ago, a couple of years, and you can see these equations, they are super complicated, right? But they look great. Like this looks exactly like an equation that you would find in a math textbook, and it's just stuck in there with all the text. You can do things, like write sets. You can write integrals. Like the way you do this for real is something called LaTeX. So LaTeX is a program that's designed to format text in mathematically oriented papers and books in computer science, in chemistry and biology, and all these different fields used all the time in physics. The problem with using LaTeX, not only is it a totally separate program, but it actually requires some programming skills. So in order to make this text look like this is what my LaTeX file actually looks like. So you can see that there are text pieces, like me just writing stuff, but then I have to use all these like crazy commands to make the equation show up that way. And then even embedded in the text, there are like these weird dollar signs and things. So it's a really great way to write. So if anybody's interested in learning LaTeX, I will help you learn it because it's a great, once you do it, it's like, forget everything else. That stuff looks terrible compared to just like beautiful mathematics. But it is a big learning curve to get into LaTeX. So to avoid the learning curve, we're going to do Google Docs and LibreOffice. So let's do Google Docs first. So just, open up a Google Doc wherever you like, Google Docs. So what's great about Google Docs, not only is it basically a very powerful but simple document program, right? I can write text, I can do headings, blah, 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 whatever, blah, blah, blah. You can also just stick equations in there real easily. So let's say that I want to put a simple equation in this document. Just go to insert. Don't do special characters because actually special characters is actually really hard to write good math that way because you have to select, like if you click special characters, you have a giant box and you're like, okay, well, what the hell am I going to do here? I have this huge number of characters to select from. There's arrows, there's symbols. Like this is not the greatest way of doing things. So what I'm going to say is insert equation. So Google Docs has this nice integrated equation editor. So just click equation, you get a little box, and then the stuff you type looks like equations. So y equals x plus b. That looks like an equation. Notice the font is actually different because equation fonts should be different from text fonts. You can use the arrows to navigate around that equation. So I can now I'm in equation editor mode. If I push the right arrow to get out, I'm now out. I can do things like align it, if I can figure out how to get the alignment. Yeah, there it is. So you can do like, oops, there is the alignment. Centered, you can make it centered, just like many textbooks and papers have alignment of equations. Cool. So that's a way of writing like a simple equation. But what's great, and then you can keep going blah, 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 more and more and more text. Let's say I want another equation. You can do really complicated things, which is why this is actually powerful. So I can do insert equation. And let's say I want to do an integral. So that's pretty complicated. Let's do some squared first. So I could do like y equals, let's say I want to square something. That's a common thing you want to write. That's easy. So C, let's say I want to square C, do the caret. So that's shift 6. And then I could write like cubed, right? And then I can use the arrows to get around the equation. So if I get out of the superscript, because see if I keep writing, I'm going to stay in superscript. Just hit the arrow key, the right arrow key to get out. And now you're like plus B. So now you're writing in equation mode again. So that's cool. You can do underscores too, meaning if you want to write like B2 to indicate B1 and B2, click the shift and then the the lower underscore button. So it's like right next to the plus sign. It's like the minus, but with a shift on it, right? It makes an underline. That drops you down there. Then you can type stuff in subscript, and then you can get the arrow key out. Cool. So that's all nice ways of writing formula. Let's see an equation, which is more complicated. Now, when you want to do like an integral, you could go over to these special characters and like type int and hope it's there. Yeah, it's like that one, right? So I click it. I think that makes it show up. It's there. Okay. So to me, that's relatively complicated. What I really like about Google Docs is that it has some LaTeX flavored things that are pretty simple. So for example, you can Google this if you like. I just Googled use equations in a document, and it gives you some equation shortcuts. And you can see what I'm going to do is use the equation shortcut. So you can do things like type the slash followed by like names like alpha, and that will make you give an alpha. So instead of like searching through this stupid menu here, you can type just straight in here slash alpha. And then the trick is to hit spacebar, and that formats it, right? So cool. So I just made an alpha without having to do all that stupid stuff with the menu. Nice. What's great is you can do everything this way. So for instance, I can do slash int. That's an integral. I have an upper limit and a lower limit. I can do 0, use the arrow keys to navigate around. And notice you can screw up by going up there, but just use the arrow keys. You'll figure out how to get to the right place, right? I think this is going to work. Let's say I want to do 0 to infinity. I think that's slash infty space. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So that worked. You could do, x squared, whatever. Let's say I want to do a trig function. Again, I could go into insert and I could type special characters. But notice that if I type sine, sorry, a little glitch there. If I type sine, it's italic. But if I type slash sign and then a space, it becomes Roman, not italic. And that's actually the correct way to write an equation in a document is Roman, not italic. So that's actually the correct thing, slash sine slash cosine. I can, let's say I want to take a sine of theta. I can do slash theta t plus slash omega. Like you can just type in whatever Greek letters you want, and you can get nice equations that way. Let's see, what other things have I not done? You can do sums. You can do slash sum. That would give you a sigma with the upper and lower limits. And then finally, I think the other thing that people like to do is fractions, of course. I should have done that first, maybe. Fractions are easy, slash frac. So if you do that and hit spacebar, you get a nice little fraction ready for you to write, like a plus b squared on the top, and then like c cubed on the bottom. C plus 3, no, c cubed. Right? And then you got a nice equation, which then you can, format in the usual way on Google Docs. So that is basically everything you need to know about equation editing in Google Docs. Now, if you have like a specific sign you want to come up with, you can just go to Google and say, how do I write this Greek letter? How do I make this mathematical sign? There's ways of doing, the crazy ones. So the crazy ones here, you notice there were like triple integrals. There's a way of typing that. I don't know what it is. It would take a little Googling to figure it out, but there's ways of figuring out exactly what that is. And actually, I wonder if I could, see, this is not an equation in the remote, so I can't actually check to find, but you can, there's, just go to Google, you'll get it. So anyway, that's how you do it on Google Docs. This is actually the way that I recommend. Now I'm going to spend a few minutes looking at LibreOffice because LibreOffice has like other powerful tools, and you may find it more useful in some circumstances than Google Docs. It's also free and a nice program, so I'm just going to go through it. So let's fire up a LibreOffice document. Writer. Okay, so LibreOffice looks more like Microsoft Word. It's way more user-friendly because everything is more user-friendly than Word. So I can do blah, blah, blah. I can just type texting, blah, 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 and whatever. And let's say I want to insert an equation. Well, same thing, go to insert, but there's no equation in the drop-down menu. There's a special character, and that takes you over to a similar kind of search from Google. If I type alpha, I'll get a whole bunch of different alphas. But again, to me, this is like not that useful. I guess the one I want is like there. But like, what is that? Yeah, I mean, so that's a little confusing to me. Anyway, so the way you do this is you have to go to insert and then object and then formula object. So the way LibreOffice does it is it has a whole different system set up for actually typing in equations. If you like sort of GUI menus, you might like LibreOffice's approach a little bit better because you have over here a bunch of different elements you can put in. So if you want operators, you can do like click the division, and then here you can just put in like X. And again, navigate via the arrow keys, X and Y. Sorry, get down to the bottom right there, Y. And then you can keep writing g squared, and you put the squares in the same way with the caret, the upper caret. I think that you do the lower, the underscore is the same. I'm going to try it, underscore 2. Yep, that worked. And you can actually see the text that's being written down here. I think you can go down here and do stuff like actually write in like 5/6. Yeah, so you can actually go down here and write the text in if you understand it in the same way that you could do that in Google Docs. So that's a nice feature. Um, but generally, interacting with the menus is kind of how LibreOffice is designed. So you can go over here and the thing is you have to search for stuff, which can be confusing, like functions. Okay, there's a sine function. There's a bunch of crazy functions that I don't know anything about. Here's an arc cosine, right? So you can put all the functions in. And then the thing is, I just like, you can just type that and get theta. I don't know how to do that in LibreOffice. Let me just I think you have to go to special. Yeah, you actually have to get the special, yeah, this button to get the symbols. And so now you're back to looking up symbols, and that just does not seem all that, helpful to me, Greek. And then you got to look through it, right? Now, I think if I type that and insert, so that's sort of cool. So I can actually see down here what it did. So I bet on this one, I bet I can write like, that's the uppercase phi. I bet I can write parentheses phi. Yeah, it did work. So you can learn this stuff. You can learn how to do texting, the text representation before it gets, down here, before it gets formatted into nice equations up here. But in any case, I don't love this because actually it doesn't look as good. Like it does not look as nice, even if you can align it. I don't really know how to do this stuff that well in LibreOffice. Apologies, but there's a way of a center aligning. Yeah, there it is. But oops, I made it go away, undo. But you just can't do it that simply and nicely, and it just doesn't look as good as Google Docs. So anyway, but it's definitely an option. It definitely works for writing equations. You just have to get used to one or the other. So, okay, I think that's enough. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful as like a crash course into writing equations in documents, because in physics and mathematics and other sciences, it's incredibly critical to be able to write clear, well-formatted, and understandable equations in your documents so that you can refer to them specifically and not say like, oh, the equation, which you can find in this other document like the lab manual. No, just write the equation there, Anyway, okay, thanks very much. Hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you guys in class.